Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today.
I don't feel ashamed anymore to ask for help. I don't feel ashamed to be perfectly imperfect, a flawed hot mess. I don't have self-hatred. I have compassion.
So describe for us the difference between having human emotions and being triggered by something. Today we're talking about becoming the one to find the one. Sacred steps to create lasting love. And with me today is one of my favorite coaches. There's so many people out there, you just can't follow them all. But Allana Pratt, I met her a couple of years ago, and she is one of the most heart-centered, authentic, real, down-to-earth, go deep, live large individuals that I've met, and I just absolutely adore her. And so having her on our podcast today is such a privilege. And this is going to be a conversation that really bridges with all the work that you do at Journey Beyond Divorce and invites you into the possibility of just a brilliant new life and new you, really. And so with no further ado, let me welcome our guest. Welcome, Alana.
Oh my God, it is so great to be back, Karen. I adore you as well. Thank you for starting the year out here together. Yeah,
absolutely. And the work that you do is you do this thing like before every podcast where you have 10-minute or so chat with your listeners. And I have been drawn in and touched by you sharing the lovely and the lousy and everything in between of life. And I think so often our thought leaders are filtered and everyone thinks, oh my God, I want to be them. And you come and say, I'm just this like normal sloppy person myself, just doing my work. And I just think that's exactly what our audience needs to hear today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I don't have enough brain cells to remember who I lied to and who I told the truth to. So I just tell the truth all the time. And I love I started out, believe it or not, I started out as a sexy mom expert way back when I was on Lisa Gibbons' radio show when I lived in LA. And then I moved on to, relationship expert. But then let's be honest, I've been divorced twice, went through a 13-year custody battle. So let's let that title go. But what I came to is intimacy. Yeah. Into me, I see. And when we look inside, do we love all our parts? It's really easy to love the magnificent parts, right? But can we love equally our wobbly parts? Because when we do, I call that unconditional love or home or wholeness. Mm-hmm. And then that's literally a scientific vibration. We are going to attract people in alignment with that wholeness. And we're also going to develop the superpowers to discern the ones who aren't whole, who want to use us and take advantage of us. And we're actually going to have the courage to sit in the fire, withstand rejection, step into the unknown and say, thank you, but no, thank you.
Right. And what's so interesting is one of the big topics that come up with my audience is, am I ever going to be able to trust again? I've noticed in my own walk and with so many of my clients that the broken trust comes from abandoning ourselves, from not listening to that inner voice or our monkey mind or our fear, shutting it down and then doing not what we want or know on some really deep level that we should, but this abandonment. And when we abandon ourselves, we manifest people who abandon us.
Totally. We get betrayed, but where did we betray ourselves?
Exactly. And so what's so powerful about this and empowering is I don't have to control anyone else. I don't have to worry about anyone else. I just have to stay in the place where I have the most power, which is healing and refining myself.
Totally, totally. I'm in total 1,000,000% agreement. We can only trust somebody to be who they are, right? And we can trust that the unknown is ever changing. So there's going to be no help there, but we can connect with ourselves and trust our own knowing. one of the humbling parts of my journey is that I'm super smart, like Ivy League grad, all the things, but that we could call that the tip of the iceberg, my conscious mind, my secondary consciousness, right? Those are the thoughts that I know, the beliefs that I have, like what I can remember is very small, 5 or 8%. But under the water, this humongo iceberg, that is our subconscious, our primary consciousness. That's where we don't have a cognitive memory of what's going on. And frankly, it could be this life. It could even be past lives. It is literally these unprocessed traumas and triggers in our body, not in our mind, in our body. We might go into a room cognitively aware and intentional and giving our affirmations. I'm looking for healthy love or a healthy investment or a healthy client, any of these relationships, right? But our body, at least mine, what I discovered when I started to do more of this inner somatic subconscious work in my body is my body was 24/7 in level 4 trauma, no different than being in a war, PTSD. And my statement that my body was making was, where's the abuser to survive? So I'm at a party and all the healthy men are over there, but I'm beelining it for the sociopath, So this took when I started to do, and I've done all of my Allana Pratt method processes are these somatic, experiential, subconscious processes around feeling. And then I've also, with my VIP clients, I do psychedelic somatic integration work, very low doses of legal cannabis, where it gets us out of our mind and into our body. And we literally watch our body replay or recapitulate the actual trauma that never got processed in the real moment. So on the one hand, you're witnessing your own body while you're feeling the emotions of the body, while you're being witnessed by a facilitator, me. Because here's the key. Trauma occurs in relationship, but healing trauma also occurs in relationship. But I would not recommend that other relationship be a trauma bonding relationship or it's going to be more of a shit show. But if you have a facilitator who's walking before you, so has been there, zero judgment, total compassion, and facilitation to not get triggered, and then you have this container of safety, your autonomic nervous system that normally will loop between disassociation, that fake calm face, no, I'm fine, really I am, but you're not even in your body.
Right.
And then you come back in your body and it gets suicidal, hopeless. What's the point? I'll never find someone. Why even try? So then we have a glass of wine, get on social media, or we disassociate again. Most people never get all the way back to zero because so level 4, you're gone. Okay, right. Total disassociation. Level 3, hopeless. What's the point? Level 2 on the way home is a very short period of intense rage, panic, something that you normally can't deal with at a dinner conversation or even on your own because it's too intense. The panic attacks, you feel like you're going to die. So again, we abort, we leave our body. But in a facilitation through one of my Allana Pratt method processes or through these psychedelic somatic integration experiences, I'm right there and I'll say something to my client like, take me with you. We've got this. Trust your body. Let's go. I'm right here. Right. And I'll be that trusted partner they never had in the moment of trauma. And then we get back to one, relief. Oh my God, I lived. I'm like, yes, you did. You're a badass. I love you. You're amazing. And then I feed into their subconscious in that moment. You can trust yourself. You're home now. And then their nervous system will go all the way back to zero. And Karen, it's a feeling of calmness, but not calmness we get when we leave, a calmness when you're home and whole and embodied. And when we integrate something like rage or shame or self-hatred or devastation or hope, when we integrate these emotions, we think the cognitive mind thinks, oh, we're just going to get rid of them. No, it's called integration for a reason. It's like alchemy. From lead to gold. When the autonomic nervous system comes back, there's a wisdom left, an embodied wisdom. So you are the embodiment of, you're not just strong, you're the embodiment of strength. You don't just try to have a better attitude. You literally are the embodiment of surrender. You aren't just this badass. You also are soft and strong. It's extraordinary.
So gosh, you've just said so much. I have 100 questions I want to ask, but I'm gonna just right on the tail of that. What does that feel? So you've been through this. So how do you, as a human being, feel different, right? When you get to a place like that?
I have lots of preferences, but I no longer have attachment. Like literally, since we talked last, I was on sabbatical for the whole month of October. And at the very end of it, I was in my most happy place, everything. And then my YouTube channel got hacked. Now, I've been doing my YouTube channel for 18 years. There's 5.5 million views. That's 80% of my leads. That's kind of a big deal. I was shocked. I said, oh, no trigger in my body. None. I was like, oh my God. And I said to my staff, I am not my YouTube channel. I am Alana Pratt. If the divine doesn't want us to give our gifts this way, okay, we will start again somewhere else. And I got off the Zoom call. I'm like, holy shit. So things happen.
Did I just say that?
Yeah. Like things happen, but I don't get triggered anymore. I'm not attached to my safety being outside in, my worth being outside in. Life isn't outside in anymore. All of that is home, inside out. So I feel like a badass, but I also feel more humbled to ask for help. I don't feel ashamed anymore to ask for help. I don't feel ashamed to be perfectly imperfect, a flawed hot mess. I don't have self-hatred. I have compassion.
So describe for us the difference between having human emotions and being triggered by something like your YouTube channel being hacked, because it's not like you're now like never have any emotions.
Oh, no, I have all my human emotions.
Yeah, so just like, let's get a little fine tuner here.
So when an emotion occurs and you're not integrated, you need to change the situation to be okay. You're attached to the outcome. You're not going to be okay until the outcome changes. As opposed to, like, here's another funny story. Since we talked last, I had a boyfriend and we've since broken up. So I'm moving through them fast, but it was like maybe November before Christmas. And he wanted to buy me tickets to Alanis Morissette. I'm like, oh my God, that'd be great. Those are kind of expensive. He's like, let me give them to you for Christmas. Super great. So we get to Christmas. There's nothing under the tree. There's nothing in my stocking. I've bought him all these different presents. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember I got you the tickets. I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe he's just not a big gift giver. Maybe he shows love in another love language. Fine. We get to July, Karen. And he says to me, oh yeah, I sold the tickets to Alanis Morissette. I got a gig. He didn't even remember he got them for me for Christmas. And normally in these moments, this is my wound playing out. So this is the difference between getting triggered and having an emotion. So I wanted my dad to own, he was drunk and stoned growing up, never owned it. I wanted my son's father to own what he did in the custody battle for 13 years, never owned it. I wanted this man to own that he sold my effing Christmas present. But there was my moment. And I practiced what I practice in my psychedelic journeys, in my Allana Pratt method processes. I just sat there and instead of going, how could you, victim, blame, I sat in the fire. And I closed my eyes and I started to breathe. And I said, devastated. And I kept breathing, maybe about 60 seconds. And then I go, sadness. Oh, sadness. And then I go, I'm making this mean I am completely unimportant. I forgive you. You just forgot. So that's like in the moment. And then because I didn't blame him, he didn't justify. Right? So he was able to actually own it for the first time in his whole life and say, I'm sorry. But he never chose to make up for the damage done. He never chose to address it ever again. I need a partner who does the work with me, so he's not a fit. But he was brought to me as a gift from the universe to yet again integrate another place where I wasn't home. I didn't like that happened. I had all my emotions, but I'm not going to leave my body. I'm not going to storm out of the room, which I normally do. I'm not going to blame him. So that's a reaction. When we can't stay in our body, we can't stay in the room, and we freak out and react. That means that you're not integrated. But it doesn't mean you don't have emotions anymore. It just means you can sit in the fire and stay with little you inside your heart. He or she is really scared or hurt. Just stay with yourself. Feel your feelings, even in the face of another. And then what happens is the other has a different opportunity to show up. They can show.
I love that because you didn't react, he didn't go on the defensive. And so without controlling anyone but yourself, you change the dynamic in your experience, which is so beautiful. I would love for a few minutes. I talk so much to my clients about their inner child.
Yeah.
And the opportunity with every trigger to integrate that younger version of themselves into their more mature self. And even that little piece of the conversation, I find people it blows something wide open for them. It's like little K. It's like, let's give her a name. And I refer to the inner child as like the kitten, right? That you've been abandoning and criticizing this little child for so long. They're hidden behind the couch. They're not coming out.
Yeah,
You have to rebuild trust. And
totally.
and I would love to hear your take on all of that, because I think that's what you're talking about in your integration.
Totally, totally. So in my Become the One mastery program, there's 5 of my 10 Allana Pratt method processes, and the first one's called Little You. So it's the flagship program or process, because without a connection to yourself, we're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
And so the way I look at the little you, I think there's many. I think they are somatically held. Maybe it's in your throat and you can't speak up. Maybe it's in your heart that shuts down. Maybe it's nauseousness in your stomach. You can't digest what happened. Maybe it's around sexuality, right? It's somewhere in your body. Maybe it's spinning in your head because you just got to figure it out, figure it out. But little you is somewhere. So you go to the emotion, the sensation in the body, and you imagine that you become really small, and you go in and there's a locked room, and only big you, your higher self, can open that door. And I, in the process, say, and I'm with you, you're not alone. And we go in and very accurately, as you said, little you's back is to us, and everything in there is black and white, and it's the past. It's the first time something happened and somebody wasn't there for little you, and you were told, don't be angry, don't be scared, don't be. Something was wrong about your expression, and you shoved that aspect of yourself in the closet, and they've been there for probably decades. And so the first thing is to take ownership. I am so sorry that every time you pipe up with fear, I grab my 2x4, hit you over the head, and shove you back in the closet.
Exactly.
Right? I'm so sorry that you feel already abandoned or sad, and then I'm neglecting you and forsaking you as well. You have every reason to not trust me.
Right.
Please accept my apology. I have yet to learn, and that's the second process in the Become the One Mastery, sitting in the fire. I've yet to learn how to sit in the fire when these emotions come up in my body, because I never knew it was you, and I never knew I could come to you, and I never knew we could sit together. And then the third process is called Dance with Polarity, because what that shows you is that actually what's happening is for you, not against you. So we want little you to shut up so we don't feel sad anymore, right? We are not seeing the gift in the sadness, that they have every right to be sad, that anybody in that situation would be sad. And that if we don't know sadness, how can we carve the well to fill with joy? There's nothing wrong here.
It's like you're describing that it's actually our inner child that invites us back into that,
our body.
And that full expression of, like, I was always told, stop being so sensitive. That was the thing that my mom said to me more than anything else. And so I can only imagine and know many of them, but there are some I haven't yet unearthed, that like all the things that stop being so sensitive would shut down.
Yeah.
And then go through decades of life thinking sensitive is bad, sensitive is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one final piece I want to add about the little you dynamic, and they can be 5 years old or 50 years old, right? There's a lot of them in there over time. Anything that has not been integrated is held stuck, unintegrated emotion and trauma in your body. That's just how that works. And so one of the main pieces, and I learned this through my own evolution before I created the process, was when I went in there into that area of my body to soothe and listen and acknowledge and validate little you, I still had an agenda. Chop, chop. Come on. We got to get the guy. We got to get the money. We got to get something. Come on. Can we get over this? Right. There was an agenda. And she was like, F you. I'm not leaving this room. You can leave with your 2x4s and I don't want to talk to you again. So I thought, oh, I'm conditionally loving her. I'll love you when you change. Unconditional love would be, and this is like a big breakthrough moment for me. I had literally a direct experience in my body where, that gravity leaves and you're one with everything. I said, oh, and you can be sad for eternity. And I'm never leaving. And I love you. That's what she needs to hear. That's what she never heard. And I believe we can only actually be that for ourselves, because everyone else is human like we are, right? Everyone is flawed. So can you actually 100% ever trust somebody to be there 100% of the time? No. So it's like, I'm not going to look outside ever again for someone to be perfect to make me feel better, make me feel safe, make me feel enough. This is my higher self's job to do with my little you. And something inside Karen shifts when that little you goes, you'll love me forever, even if I'm a hot mess. And you mean it. It's not just a script you read or a process you do or something. Like you mean it. Something rests. The autonomic nervous system. I got to put one of those brain scans on when you actually do this moment, because I bet you everything goes into 0 point. Everything goes into 0 point. And then little you says, well, I don't want to be sad forever, but if you keep abandoning me, I don't feel very courageous. So you need to have my back and not abandon me or blame me. Would you do that? Could we practice? Could we learn how to rebuild our relationship around speaking up, around letting go, around showing up, all whatever you need to do? And then that's power. Oh my God. Now that's just the first of 5 processes and become the one mastery. But once we've got that one, got a handle on that one, then we learn to teach people how to actually feel their feelings and stay in their body. And then that dancing with polarity one is about really what you can't hear when you're triggered. So we got to get you integrated to actually hear. So once we can hear, oh, wait a minute, there is a bigger picture here. This actually is for my soul's evolution. Then the 4th process, theater of redemption, we can actually release anger in a healthy way. Because just like we said earlier, it's really fun to betray or blame everybody else for betraying us. But most every client I've ever worked with, ultimately, we get to the place where they hate themselves, where they have not forgiven themselves for something. So this theater of redemption, we, in a healthy way, without projecting it onto others and no more blaming ourselves, we integrate our anger and we take on the point of view that we created this entire experience as the director, producer, and actor of this play called life, no victims. We own it and we forgive ourselves. And then the 5th process is called conscious communion with the beloved. And so what we want to realize there with great humility is that we on our insides have masculine and feminine energy. We're both pretty aware of that. Most people are aware of that. But in those masculine, feminine energies, there are toxic masculine and toxic feminine, and there is divine masculine and divine feminine. And there are perhaps aspects of your own dominant, masculine, misusing, pushing, and criticizing, and you've got to be a workhorse, you got to overachieve. Maybe that is your toxic masculine within yourself. And until you integrate it within yourself, you'll never attract it on the outside. And our feminine, toxic feminine, would be the misuse of our expression, freaking out, saying what an idiot you are to somebody on the outside or yourself on the inside. So we want to heal in this conscious communion with the beloved within ourselves, taking anything unconscious into conscious, masculine, feminine. And then when you have that communion on the inside, you now literally have the capacity and the vibration to attract it and live it on the outside. And that's become the one mastery.
Well, the program sounds fabulous. I would love if you could share either a story of your own or one of your clients. Like I tracked you really well. But it was very conceptual. And so can you walk us through a story of somebody, maybe when they first came to see you, the hot mess that they were in whatever ways, and the impact going through the process had on them?
I can give you 40 stories. Every 40 client I have right now, everybody's gone through this on some level. But the one that's coming up as you ask, a gentleman who came to me and they'd been married 15 years and she'd been enabling, I'm going to say, his drinking for 15 years. And now the kids were old enough. You can't hide it anymore. The kids know, and the kids are scared. The kids are dysregulated. And she finally had the courage to say, you can choose between drinking and the family. And I love you no matter what you choose. So this is an ultimatum, but not an ultimatum, not a judgmental ultimatum, but it's time to choose. So he started doing the work, and who we met was his little you. Now, when he grew up, his mom almost died of cancer once, almost died of cancer twice, and then died of cancer on the 3rd time. And he grew up in a very Irish family where he didn't want to get upset and upset his mom who was dying or upset his dad who was watching his wife die. So his little you was not allowed to have an emotion. And then when she died, they never talked about it again.
Oh my God.
So little you had some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, little you.
You think?
Yeah, you think? And so he had no capacity to feel his feelings or sit in the fire because they were squashed. Little you was so abandoned. You want me to look at what's right about my mother dying? F off. And so much anger at God. And then, of course, isn't it interesting that his wife is starting to have health issues which is triggering his issues around his dead mother. Oh my God. So you can totally see it right there. I have my hands full. And it has taken a year because all my programs are a year. I do, there's group coaching, private coaching, retreats, and these VIPs with psychedelic somatic integration work if you want. That's like the VIP package, but everybody has to be in for the year because I'm not interested in giving you a fish. I'm interested in teaching you to fish. And
it takes
so,
time after all of those decades of where you're at.
right. He's in his 50s. So at the end, it was great. He hadn't been drinking. It was super, super great. And then we start the new year again, and I get a call over the holidays. And so he hadn't renewed for more of the psychedelic somatic integration work. He's like, I got it. But over the holidays, one of his colleagues, same age as when his mom died of cancer, got triggered again. So we've come a long way in 1 year, but I'm talking 40, 50 years of the trauma. Right. So I said, I humbly request you renew for another year. And he admitted that the first time he did the work was to keep his family. And I go, it's not a strong enough reason, babe. You have to do it for you. You have to do it for you. And so we're beginning another year, and he is more humble, but also more brave. It's almost like 99% commitment is hard because there's always a back door. There's always an excuse. There's always like a bridge you could cross back over. But 100%, you burn the bridge. It actually gets a lot easier because you're 100% committed. So he's, I mean, it's only the recording of this in the middle of January, and he's already like rocking his game because he's doing it for himself. Little you can really trust him now.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like an amazing program. And I would love for you to just speak a few more minutes on the importance of committing to a program. Like we do the same thing. It's you can't come in and 2 months later, 3 months later, you're going to be like, okay, I'm good. Not if you actually want to make some lasting change, have a transformation. So what is it about 12 months or longer that makes the difference?
Yeah. Well, I've had clients that literally just signed up last week. I've had clients that have been with me. I think my longest client's been with me for 13 years. Life just is awesome when this community is in his life. So commitment's a curious thing. It's really the year program, I believe, allows you to surrender, to just stop looking for your outside to change for you to be okay on the inside. Oh, just when somebody texts me back or wants to date me or marry me or all the things we do, or someone wants to hire me or I lose 5 pounds, like all these, and then I'll be okay. Like, stop it. Stop it. That's never the way. And that's why one of my books is called Finding the One is Bullshit. Becoming the One is brilliant and beautiful. We have to begin to wire ourselves properly. It has to be full ownership. It has to be. And I know that that's hard. What I realized in that relationship I just shared about with the Christmas present that he sold, I was looking to him to own what he did for me to be whole. Mm. So I was still outside in. I was still waiting to be enough because he'd apologize and I'm more valuable and important. And then see, I'm good enough. No, I was still looking to him. And the hardest one, ever since we've known each other, I think my son has not been in communication with me, right?
That's right.
Yeah, he's still not in communication.
Tell our listeners, your son.
Yeah. So at 15, we had been in court for 13 years. And I took the high road. He said, Mom, I know what I'm doing. The only way to stop this court is I'm going to let Dad win. I'm going to live with him. And for 2 years, I took the high road, and I didn't legally relinquish legal and physical custody, but I did not see him. And court stopped. He was right. He had peace, and we saw each other secretly. Facials and hamburgers. Maybe every couple of weeks we'd see each other, which was horrific. But he had suicidal ideations 3 times, and his life was more important than my comfort. So I thought that's how it was going to be for the rest of life. We'll just have this secret relationship. But when COVID hit in 2020, he went dark, quiet. And I have not, to this very day, heard one thing from him. I am blocked on all platforms. And that's horrific. And what I even just this morning, it's my birthday today, at the recording of this podcast. Yeah. So I pick these cards every year, like these oracle cards. And the first one was release allegiances. I'm like, oh shit. And it just dawned on me. I'm attached to my son calling me back, getting back in my life in order to be whole enough.
And there's not a person listening right now who's like, of course.
Of course, right?
Of course.
And that's still a lot of pressure on him when he's going through his own journey as well. Now, I still prefer he calls. I still totally hope he calls, all the rest of it. But the attachment energy that he has to, in order to, whenever there's a statement that comes up when you say, in order to feel okay, feel enough, feel whole, then you're giving your power away to them and you're controlling them and they feel it. So this morning on my birthday breakfast outside on the porch when the sun was rising and my coffee, I was crying. So I'm like, oh my God, what if that's the only energy in the way of him calling me again, is that he feels on some subtle level, he needs to call me for mom to finally be okay.
Wow.
That's too much pressure to put on a human, especially on a 22-year-old. He'll be 22 next month. So in my mind's eye, energetically, because the quantum field is real, I said, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't see that until right now. I release you as my child son, totally and completely. We done good. It was bumpy, but we done good. I invite you to return as a man. Let's begin again when you're ready. I don't need him to be a certain way for me to be whole. And I don't need to wait to get on with my life. I have been devastated for 5 years. I'll just keep being devastated and having a good attitude, being real as I continue on, but I won't hold him accountable for my happiness anymore. It's not fair.
And I love that you just said that, because how could you not be devastated? We deal with people who are dealing with parental alienation all of the time, haven't seen or spoken to their kids in a while. And by the way, for those listening, Alana's previous episode where she talks about being estranged from her son is listed in the show notes. So please go and listen to it. It's just an incredible journey of courage and pain. But yeah, what pain and heartache. And I just want to say another episode that's listed in the show notes is a recent interview I did. So I don't know if I had told you this, Alana, but I had my youngest daughter had spent many years trying to leave this earth. And while we had a beautiful relationship and she was diagnosed with things, she was really disordered, I would get a half a dozen plus phone calls that, from the police, from the hospital.
Yep.
And I think I did my version of being gifted the opportunity to bring this human being into the world was incredible. And for as long as I am gifted to support her, but I have to release her. If she is meant to live less years, go home to her Heavenly Father, whatever that looks like. And every time it would happen, I would go through this thing where I would really, because people could get so angry at God. And I was like, all I can do is lean into you because that's all I have. And she's yours, not mine. And so that, I forget what word you used, but that truly kind of letting go and detaching from having her to be a certain way, having her to have to be on the earth. And I really think that had a lot to do with the shifts that happened. And she's 26 now, just celebrated her 26th birthday. She is my walking miracle. She's doing great. She's thriving. She's in a healthy relationship. But having to do that, having to really just come toe to toe with the fact that she's not mine.
Yeah. We're her steward, but not that we don't own them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's perhaps the most painful but beautiful part of my life is to be able to be, and this is why I think I choose intimacy and vulnerability, to be all of me unapologetically, which is I'm devastated and I'm deliriously blissful and grateful. I'm everything, and we can be everything at once. And we don't need to shut down or downplay any of ourself. And when we can be that way with ourself and welcome whatever wave comes through moment to moment, you could be driving down the street, you could have an email, a commercial, hear somebody, and then you're just a fucking hot mess. Like you're just in tears. And not to, put it away, but give yourself a little time, hug little you, and bring yourself back to zero and honor your body's experience. Like that capacity is so, I don't know if there's anything braver. And it builds a beautiful heart. And we all know that with heart math, our heart radiates 5,000 times more than our brain does. So I think we're these walking beep, 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 these lights right through the planet, because like, bring it. Bring it. And then when someone needs, and you're an amazing coach, when someone needs someone to hold space and not fix and not go, oh, it's going to be fine, or not try to process them too quickly, but drop deeper and go, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
I hear you. What else? Right? Like we now can give this to others because of where we've gone and pay it forward, as I'm sure your coaches and my coaches have held space for us. That's why I think we're all here together.
Yeah.
So we don't need to be victims.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can pay it forward.
Beautiful.
Mm.
I want to ask you one more question before we pivot, and then I'd like you to talk about your program that you have coming up. We're going to take a brief commercial break, and when we get back, I'm going to ask you about the difference between learning to let go of your limiting beliefs that are conscious and the unconscious work that we've just talked so much about.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Divorce feels like an overwhelming perfect storm as you navigate pain, fear, and confusion while struggling with unfamiliar legal procedures and the pressure to make complex decisions that will impact the rest of your life. Our free rapid relief call provides the clarity and confidence you're yearning for. Visit rapidreliefcall.com for support and guidance today. Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today. So I'm in a program right now, and they talk so much about limiting beliefs and letting go of your limiting beliefs. And so I've done so much of that work, but you can't let go of what you don't know is there, right? Like it's the igloo. And so I would love to hear the way you would describe the work that we do above water, and what we can see, the tip, and then the edge that we reach where, because there is work, like I was so unconscious, there was plenty of work to do with limiting beliefs that I could access through my conscious mind.
Yeah.
How would you describe that to our listeners?
Until you surrender trying to figure it out and understand, right? And you just surrender into the body and you start to let it run the show and get curious about what these body sensations and emotions hold. As you go into the body, these new beliefs will arise out of seeming nowhere. I did not know when I started doing my psychedelic somatic integration work that I had been molested because I disassociated. But on my very first journey, everything came back when I came back in my body, not just the physical sensations and the smells and all the things, but these words. You made me do this and you like this. Like horrific beliefs, right? But when I got all the way back to zero, it made sense why I kept attracting abusers, because my body believed it didn't deserve any better. My body was looking for the next abuser to survive. So when we get underneath the hood and these emotions, and then the belief comes up from the body, that's a very different experience. And then you instantly can give yourself compassion. I forgave myself for decades of horrible business decisions and marriage and divorce decisions, and you name it. I'm like, oh, baby girl, that's why. And then I get to reparent rather than it being so much affirmations of a belief. It's more about reparenting. It's more about mirror work. It's more about somatic, holding your body, holding little you. It's really reparenting that I deserve honor. And I'll look in the mirror and I'll say, baby girl, you deserve honor. And then it's being honorable to myself develops, and I'm not going to say it's a belief. I'm going to say it's a knowing. Beliefs are in the mind. This is just semantics, but it's how I say it. Beliefs are in the mind. Feelings are in the heart, but knowing is in my hips. There's a knowing. It's pre-verbal. It's I am. And then I can finish that. I am worthy. I am to be respected. I deserve care. And then down there in the hips, up in the head, I've got to go, okay, life is hard. Life is hard. No, life is easy. Life is great. But it's all bullshit because it sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone of shit. But when I go in down into the body and I honor and feel through how devastating and horrific it was, then I can go, life is. And then I'm in charge again. I'm in charge of my reality from my belief that it is everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Life is. And then I can say to my little girl, life is for us, especially when I have your back. Let's go for a walk, right? Let's go on a date. Let's launch a program. Let's do things.
Alana, as I'm listening to you, the thought that crossed my mind is you may not have been able to raise your son, but what a beautiful job you've done raising your inner child.
Thank you. I did raise him till he was 15. So they have their bar mitzvah at 13. His dad is Jewish. So I still raised him.
Raised him until he
was 15. But yeah, ultimately, and I don't know if you have this point of view, but I've interviewed enough quantum physicists over the years. Nobody's really out there. Nobody's really out there. Everyone is a holographic projection of who we are. So ultimately, I'm loving others when I love myself. Yeah. When I'm loving myself, I'm loving others. I am, you are me, we are one. And so when you really start to embody that, then yeah, it's really about reparenting ourselves and coming home to the divine. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your Become the One program, and then I know you have a free gift for our listeners as we wrap.
Yeah, I have a Become the One intro and a Become the One mastery. So I want everybody to have the Become the One intro complimentary by listening to this podcast. So I'll give you the link in the show notes, but the code will be your name, Karen. And normally on the site, it's $57, but at checkout, just put in Karen as the code and you'll have it complimentary. So that's the Become the One intro. And that's a 3-video intro into this work where we talk more about this idea of forgiveness, connecting with little you, seeing how things are for us, not against us, letting go of that internal criticism or projection and blame on the outside. And then the Become the One mastery were those 5 processes I took us through briefly, the little you, and then we learn how to sit in the fire. And then the dance of polarities, when we take that eagle view, once we're not triggered anymore, and go, okay, if this is for me, how? What dormant evolutionary quality in me needs to wake up? And then we go on to the theater of redemption, where we, in a healthy way, get through our very validated anger that society doesn't really let us have permission. But if we don't release it, I watched mom die at 61 of liver cancer, and that's where anger is held in the liver. So I believe it's very important to integrate anger into fierce love. Hey, this doesn't work for me. This is not aligned with my values. This is out of integrity. It's okay to be feisty, but if we keep our heart open, it's fierce love. If we close our heart, it's anger that can hurt others or ourselves. And then that last process was the conscious communion with the beloved, where we're taking our toxic or unconscious masculine feminine into divine masculine feminine, and then into communion together. And when there's that inner alignment, balance, Shiva, Shakti, yin yang, it's being in a relationship that you're already in. It'll be very clear. They'll step up or step aside because you're only inviting conscious divine kindness and respect. Full respect relationship here. Thank you or no thank you. Or if you're single, you'll have greater discernment and the vibration to attract a healthier relationship. So once you do the Become the One, you will be invited into the mastery. And whether you join us live or it's the evergreen program, I gotcha.
Beautiful. And the name of your podcast is?
Oh, Intimate Conversations.
So you're all podcasters. Love, love, love this podcast. Go check out Intimate Conversations, check out the show notes, and get your Become the One intro for free and learn more about the other program. There is so much here, given what you have been through and how hard you're working through your divorce as you begin to emerge. This is work that I just so highly encourage you to consider, to dive into, because your best chapter is ahead of you. And as we know, we have to roll up our sleeves and do that courageous work to be able to live the life we each want to live. And you're such a beautiful representation of that. Alana, thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Oh, it's always good to be with you, Karen. And yes, there's a difference between happiness and joy. that once you've done this deep work with you, Karen, or with me, or like, my God, to have each of us bookending you, like, I can't think of a better way to be snuggled as you heal. When you get to the other side, there's a juicy joy that you've earned that no one and no circumstance can take away. That's just radiance for the sake of being alive. And that's your birthright. And it's very magnetic to other healthy people that will honor you. So thanks for having me back. It's so great to see you.
100%.
Look forward to this being like a yearly affair. This will be great.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll be back again real soon with another episode. So you folks take care. Thanks for joining us on the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. I hope you found guidance and encouragement to help you along your journey. If you like my podcast, please take a minute to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. You can also visit us at jbddivorcesupport.com, where our team of coaches support both men and women through our one-on-one coaching, group programs, online courses, and free resources. Stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll talk to you soon.